My boyfriend's parents said I needed to see the baby's room and then locked me inside of it. I'd been dating Marcus for 8 months when he finally invited me to meet his parents at their house outside the city. The drive took an hour and Marcus seemed nervous the whole way, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel and checking his phone at every red light. When we pulled up to the house, it looked normal enough. Two-story colonial with a nice lawn. His parents, Rachel and Paul, were waiting on the porch. They were polite but intense, studying me in a way that made my skin prickle. Rachel kept touching my arm and asking questions about my family, my job, where I grew up. Paul barely spoke, just watched me with this strange expression I couldn't read. After dinner, Rachel stood up abruptly and said, I absolutely had to see the nursery they'd prepared upstairs. Marcus looked confused and said they didn't have a nursery, but Rachel cut him off with a sharp look. We've been working on it for months, she said firmly. It's for the future. Something about her tone made me uneasy, but I followed her upstairs while Marcus stayed behind to help his dad with dishes. The nursery was at the end of a long hallway. Rachel opened the door and gestured for me to go in first. The room was fully decorated, a white crib in the corner, rocking chair by the window, shelves stocked with diapers and baby clothes. I walked in to get a better look and heard the door close behind me. The lock clicked. I spun around and tried the handle. It wouldn't turn. Rachel, I called through the door. This isn't funny. No response. I banged on the door and yelled for Marcus. Nothing. I pulled out my phone, but there was no signal. The windows had bars on the inside, painted white to blend in, but definitely there. I started really looking at the room then. The baby clothes on the shelves were organized by size, newborn through 12 months. But there was a dresser in the corner, and when I opened it, I found women's clothes. My size. I pulled out a shirt and my hands started shaking. It was the exact shirt I'd been wearing in a photo Marcus took of me last month, a photo I'd never posted anywhere. In the closet, I found more clothes. All my style, all my size, jeans, dresses, pajamas, things that looked exactly like items I owned. On the nightstand next to the rocking chair, there was a framed photo. I picked it up and felt my stomach drop. It was me, a picture I'd never seen before, taken from a distance. I was walking into my apartment building. I didn't even know this photo existed. There was a small bathroom attached to the nursery. In the medicine cabinet, I found prenatal vitamins. A positive pregnancy test in the trash. But I wasn't pregnant. I'd never taken a pregnancy test. Under the sink, there were boxes of more tests, all positive. Then I saw it. A stack of papers on the changing table. Medical records with my name on them. But I'd never been to this doctor. The records showed ultrasound appointments, test results, due dates, an entire pregnancy documented in detail, except none of it was real. None of it had happened to me. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Marcus's voice saying, Mom, where did you take her? Rachel's response was calm and measured. Things, she's where she needs to be, where she'll stay until she understands. I heard Marcus try the door. His voice got panicked when he realized it was locked. What are you doing? He shouted. Let her out right now. Paul's voice joined in, deeper and firm. This is for your own good, son, for the family. You'll understand once the baby comes. But I'm not pregnant, I screamed through the door. Rachel's laugh was soft and unsettling. Not yet, dear, but you will be. We've been very patient, very careful. Everything is ready now. I backed away from the door, and that's when I saw the camera in the corner of the ceiling. A red light blinking steadily. They'd been watching, planning. The clothes, the photos, the fake medical records. But what I found hidden behind the crib made me realize I wasn't the first girl they'd locked in this room. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. My hands shake as I pull the leather-bound journal from behind the crib. It was wedged in a small gap between the wall and the back panel, barely visible unless you were looking for it. I don't know what made me check there. Desperation, maybe, or the kind of heightened awareness that comes with pure terror. The first page is dated 3 years ago. The handwriting is neat, clinical. Subject 4, Jessica Winters, 26, good health, no family history of genetic disorders, athletic build, above average intelligence. Extraction successful, implantation scheduled for March 15th. I flip through the pages, my breath catching in my throat. 5 women, all documented in the same detached manner. Physical descriptions, medical histories, dates of extraction, and implantation. The most recent entry is from 8 months ago. Subject 5, Melissa Chen, 24, excellent candidate, strong bone structure, no hereditary conditions, showed resistance during initial phase, increased sedation, resolved compliance issues. Implantation successful, but complications arose during 3rd trimester, unable to salvage subject or product. Tucked between the pages are photos. 5 women, all around my age, all with similar features to mine. Dark hair, slim build, similar height. On the back of each photo is a date and a name. The same names from the journal entries. I hear Marcus's voice in the hallway again, louder now, almost shouting. What the hell is wrong with you two? Let her out right now. Rachel's voice is calm, soothing, like she's talking to a child having a tantrum. Marcus, sweetheart, we're doing this for you. You know you can't have children naturally. This is the only way. I don't want children. Not like this. This is insane, Mom. I press my ear against the door, straining to hear more clearly. Paul's voice joins in, deep and threatening. We've been patient with you, son. We've given you time to accept your condition, but the family line must continue. She's perfect. Better than the others. The others? Marcus sounds genuinely confused. What others? What are you talking about? I pull back from the door, my mind racing. Marcus doesn't know. Whatever his parents have been doing, he isn't part of it. While they argue, I frantically search the rest of the room. In the back of the closet, behind the neatly arranged maternity clothes, I find a small panel that slides open. Inside is a wooden box with 5 small glass vials, each containing a lock of hair, each labeled with a name, the same names from the journal. She's perfect for carrying, Rachel says through the door. Strong, healthy, good genetics. We've done all the tests. Tests? What tests? Marcus sounds horrified now. You've been taking her medical information? Jesus Christ, that's why you wanted to know where she gets her annual checkups. Lower your voice, Paul says sharply. This is happening, Marcus. It's already in motion. I'm calling the police, Marcus says, his voice shaking with rage. There's a sudden thud against the door, like someone being shoved against it. Don't be stupid, Paul growls. Think about what you're doing. Think about your family. Think about your family. Let go of me, Marcus shouts. She's not some breeding animal. She's a person. The woman I love. The sound of a struggle follows. Grunts, something heavy hitting the floor. Marcus's voice suddenly rising in panic. Dad, what is that? Put that down. Mom, tell him to stop. His words dissolve into a scream that cuts off abruptly. Then, silence. Terrible, complete silence. I back away from the door, heart hammering in my chest. Footsteps move down the hallway, heavy and dragging something. The front door opens and closes. A car engine starts outside. I'm frantically looking for anything I can use as a weapon when I notice something odd about the baby monitor on the dresser. It has too many buttons for a standard monitor. When I press one labeled System, a small screen lights up, showing what looks like a security camera interface. There are cameras everywhere. Living room, kitchen, front porch, driveway. I cycle through them until I find one showing the garage. Rachel is there, preparing a syringe while Paul holds Marcus against the wall. Marcus's eyes are wide with terror as the needle goes into his neck. His body goes slack almost immediately. Paul carries Marcus's limp form to their SUV and puts him in the back seat. Rachel says something I can't hear, and Paul nods before getting in the driver's seat. The garage door opens and the car pulls out. I switch to the driveway camera and watch them drive away, my boyfriend unconscious in the back. 10 minutes later, the front door camera shows Paul returning alone. He comes inside, his footsteps moving through the house. I hear Rachel's voice in the hallway outside the nursery. Did you take care of it? It's done, Paul says. He'll sleep it off and won't remember a thing, just like the other times. Good. We can't have him interfering. Not when we're so close. Their voices move away and I continue frantically searching for a way out. The windows are barred, the door is solid. I'm trapped. 20 minutes later, I hear footsteps approaching again. A key turns in the lock. Rachel enters, her smile serene and motherly. In her hand is a syringe filled with clear liquid. There you are, dear, she says, closing the door behind her. I think it's time we had a little talk about your role in our family. The syringe glints under the nursery lights as she steps toward me, still smiling that horrible, calm smile. Don't worry, she says softly. This won't hurt a bit, and when you wake up, you'll be helping us create something beautiful. I wake up with a splitting headache, my vision blurry around the edges. The ceiling spins above me as I try to piece together what happened. Rachel's face swims into focus, leaning over me with that same serene smile that now sends ice through my veins. Good, you're awake. How are you feeling? She's checking my pulse, writing something in a leather-bound journal similar to the one I found behind the crib. Her voice has that practiced bedside manner, professional, detached, yet oddly intimate. What did you do to me? My words come out slurred, my tongue feeling too thick for my mouth. Just a mild sedative, dear. Nothing that would harm the process. She makes another note. Your vitals are excellent. You're going to be perfect. When she turns to adjust something on the nightstand, I notice the syringe she used is empty. My arm throbs where the needle went in. I try to sit up, but my limbs feel like they're made of lead. Where's Marcus? I manage to ask. Rachel's smile tightens slightly, resting. He gets emotional sometimes. It's better this way. She leaves after checking my temperature, locking the door behind her. I lie there, fighting against whatever drug is in my system, willing my body to cooperate. It takes nearly an hour before I can stand without the room tilting dangerously. With Rachel gone, I resume my desperate search for a way out. The barred windows are still hopeless, the door still locked. I move the crib, looking for anything I might have missed. That's when I notice it, a slight unevenness in the hardwood floor beneath where the crib had been. I get down on my hands and knees, running my fingers along the edges of the floorboards. There's a seam that shouldn't be there, too perfect to be natural. I press against different spots until I hear a faint click. A section of the floor, about 3 feet square, shifts slightly upward. My heart hammers as I lift the panel, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. I grab the baby monitor with the security camera interface and use its glow to light my way down the stairs. The basement is nothing like the cozy, finished upper floors of the house. It's clinical, stark white walls, bright fluorescent lights that flicker on automatically as I reach the bottom step. What I see makes my blood run cold. 5 hospital beds arranged in a row, each with leather restraints at the wrists and ankles. Medical equipment surrounds them. IV stands, monitors, trays of instruments I don't recognize. Against one wall is a desk with a computer and stacks of medical files. I move to the desk, my hands shaking as I open the top file. Inside are detailed medical records for Jessica Winters, the first woman from the journal. Blood tests, ultrasounds, charts tracking hormone levels, pages documenting artificial insemination attempts, with clinical notes about optimal conditions and genetic compatibility. Quote, I flip through the other files, all the women from the journal, all with similar records. The most recent is Melissa Chen, with a final entry noting hemorrhage during 3rd trimester and unable to salvage subject or product. On the wall above the desk hangs a calendar. Tomorrow's date is circled in red, with the words, Implantation Day, written in Rachel's neat handwriting. A sound from upstairs sends me scrambling back toward the staircase, but I pause when I notice a small vent near the floor. Something glints inside. I pry the cover off and reach in, my fingers closing around a phone, Marcus's phone. I quickly scroll through his messages. There are dozens to someone named Dr. Whitman. I think something's wrong with my parents. They keep asking about Sloane's medical history. Found prenatal vitamins in Mom's purse. They're not hers. She had a hysterectomy years ago. Mom asked for Sloane's blood type today. Said it was for emergency contact info. That's weird, right? They're renovating the nursery again. Dad says it's just a hobby project, but this is the 3rd time in 5 years. The last message was sent yesterday. I'm bringing Sloane to meet them tomorrow. If anything seems off, I'll get her out of there. I'm probably just paranoid. He knew something was wrong, but he brought me here anyway. He suspected, but he ignored the signs. I hear footsteps upstairs and hurriedly replace the vent cover, tucking the phone into my pocket. I barely make it back up the stairs and replace the floor panel before the door unlocks. Rachel enters carrying a tray of food. Dinner time, she announces cheerfully. You need to keep your strength up. I sit on the edge of the bed, trying to appear compliant. Why are you doing this? She sets the tray down and sits beside me, smoothing her skirt. It's about legacy, dear. Continuation. Marcus can't have children naturally. Cancer treatment when he was 17. But the Blackwood line must continue. It's been unbroken for 11 generations. So you're, what? Using me as a surrogate? A vessel, she corrects gently, for a very special purpose. The others weren't quite right, but you're perfect. The right genetics, the right temperament. You'll give us what we need. The door opens again and Paul enters, carrying what looks like a tranquilizer gun. He leans against the doorframe, aiming it casually in my direction. Take your medicine, Rachel says, nodding toward a small pill cup on the tray. It helps prepare your system. I pick up the cup, pretending to put the pill in my mouth. I take a sip of water, hiding the pill under my tongue. Rachel watches closely, but seems satisfied when I swallow. Good girl, she says, patting my hand. Tomorrow's a big day, the beginning of something wonderful. As they leave, locking the door behind them, I spit the pill into my palm. My mind races, planning my escape. I won't be here tomorrow. I won't be their vessel. I'll die first. I check Marcus's phone again, no signal. Of course they'd choose a dead zone. But I have the security camera interface, I know the layout of the house now, and most importantly, I know what I'm fighting for, my life and the lives of any other women they might target after me. I wait for the house to quiet, listening for my moment. Tomorrow isn't happening, not there tomorrow, anyway. The sound of Rachel's footsteps approaches the nursery door again. I tense, gripping Marcus's phone tightly in my palm. When she enters, her face is composed, but there's an excited gleam in her eyes that makes my stomach turn. It's time to begin procedure prep, she says, setting down a small medical kit on the dresser. We want everything to be perfect for tomorrow. She opens the kit, revealing several vials, syringes, and what looks like a blood pressure cuff. Behind her, Paul appears in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me with cold calculation. Where's Marcus? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Rachel smiles, resting comfortably. Don't worry about him. I need to use the bathroom, I say, an idea forming. Paul nods toward the ensuite bathroom. 5 minutes. Leave the door open. As I enter the bathroom, I notice the electrical outlet near the sink. The ancient hairdryer plugged into it looks like it's from the 1970 seconds. Its cord frayed near the base. Perfect. I turn on the sink faucet full blast, letting water splash everywhere. Then I deliberately knock the hairdryer into the filling sink while it's still plugged in. The effect is immediate. Sparks fly, the lights flicker, and smoke begins to rise from the outlet. Fire! I scream, backing away. The outlet's on fire! Paul rushes in, cursing as he sees the smoke and sparking. Rachel is right behind him, her medical kit forgotten. The moment they're both focused on the electrical fire, I dash past them, slamming the nursery door and turning the key they left in the lock. I hear Paul's fist hit the door as I sprint down the hallway. You little bitch, he roars. The house is larger than I realized, with twisting corridors and multiple rooms. I check the security interface on the baby monitor, trying to orient myself. Paul is already working to break down the nursery door, while Rachel has disappeared from view. I need to find Marcus. The monitor shows a camera feed of the basement, the clinical room with the hospital beds, and beyond it, another door I hadn't noticed before. I remember the stairs behind the floor panel and make my way back toward them, listening for footsteps. The nursery door splinters open just as I slide the floor panel up. I hear Paul shouting for Rachel as I descend the stairs into the basement. The fluorescent lights flicker on automatically as I reach the bottom. I move quickly past the hospital beds toward the door I saw on the camera. It's locked, but there's a key hanging on a hook nearby. Inside is a storage room filled with medical supplies and equipment, and there, on a cot in the corner, is Marcus. He's pale, his breathing shallow, an IV drip connected to his arm. Marcus, I whisper urgently, shaking him. Marcus, wake up. We need to go. His eyelids flutter, but he doesn't fully wake. Whatever they've given him is strong. I remove the IV and try to pull him to his feet, but he's too heavy for me to carry alone. Come on, I plead, slapping his face lightly. Please, Marcus. He mumbles something incoherent, his eyes opening slightly. Recognition flickers across his face. Sloan, he slurs. What's happening? Your parents, I say, helping him sit up. They're insane. They've been kidnapping women, Marcus, using them as surrogates. I was next. He shakes his head, trying to clear it. No, they wouldn't. Oh! I found their journal, photos, medical records. 5 women before me, Marcus. 5. Footsteps on the stairs make us both freeze. Paul appears at the door, his face contorted with rage. You shouldn't have done that, he says, advancing slowly. We were going to make this comfortable for you. Marcus struggles to his feet, leaning heavily against me. Dad, what are you doing? Paul's expression softens slightly when he looks at his son. This is for you, Marcus, for your future, for our family. By kidnapping my girlfriend, Marcus's voice is gaining strength as the drugs begin to wear off. She's a vessel, Paul says, as if explaining something simple to a child. A perfect genetic match to carry on our bloodline. We back away, edging toward the far side of the room where I've spotted another door. Paul continues advancing. When we found out you couldn't have children naturally after the cancer treatment, your mother and I knew we had to take action. Paul explains. The Blackwood line has continued unbroken for 11 generations. We couldn't let it end with you. So you've been abducting women? Marcus's voice breaks. How many, Dad? How many women have died here? So, Paul's face hardens. Sacrifices were necessary. Not all vessels were compatible. We reach the door behind us, and I fumble with the handle. It opens to reveal a narrow corridor leading to what must be a rear exit. You're sick, Marcus says, tears streaming down his face. Those women had families, lives. You're monsters. We're survivors. Rachel's voice comes from behind Paul. She's holding a shotgun, aimed directly at Marcus. We do what's necessary to preserve what matters. Mom, Marcus pleads. This has to stop, please. For a moment, indecision flickers across Rachel's face. Then we hear it, sirens in the distance, growing louder. The neighbors, Paul hisses. Someone must have heard the commotion. Rachel's grip on the shotgun tightens. We need to clean up, now. Paul nods, a cold determination settling over his features. Get them back upstairs. I'll take care of the evidence. He rushes past us toward the medical room, and I hear drawers being yanked open, papers rustling. Move, Rachel orders, gesturing with the shotgun. We comply, Marcus still unsteady on his feet, but moving under his own power now. As we climb the stairs back to the main floor, I can smell smoke, not from my electrical diversion, but something bigger. Paul has started a fire. The sirens are right outside now, and I can see flashing lights through the windows. Rachel herds us into the living room, her shotgun never wavering. Rachel, Paul calls from the hallway. It's spreading too quickly. We need to go. She looks torn, glancing between us in the direction of her husband's voice. The front door splinters as police officers begin forcing their way in. Come with me. Paul appears in the doorway, extending his hand to his wife. Now. Rachel looks at Marcus one last time, something like regret crossing her face. Then she lowers the shotgun and moves to Paul's side. I did it all for you, she tells Marcus. Everything was for you. As smoke fills the room and police officers pour through the front door, Paul and Rachel disappear down the hallway, heading deeper into the burning house rather than surrendering. An officer reaches us, pulling us toward the exit. We need to get out now. The house is going up fast. Marcus stares after his parents, shock and grief etched on his face. I grab his arm and pull him toward the door. They made their choice, I tell him as we stumble outside into the night air, just like they made it with those other women. I do say. Fire trucks arrive as we collapse on the front lawn, coughing and gasping. Paramedics rush to check us over as flames consume the house, erasing the horror inside, but not the memories, not the truth of what happened there. And somewhere in that inferno, Marcus's parents have chosen to burn with their secrets, rather than face justice for what they've done. The smoke burns my lungs as firefighters pull us from the front lawn, oxygen masks pressed to our faces. Marcus's eyes are fixed on the inferno that was once his childhood home, flames shooting through the roof as the structure begins to collapse. I squeeze his hand, but he barely seems to notice. They're still in there, he whispers, his voice hollow. They chose to. A paramedic interrupts, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. We need to get you both checked out at the hospital. The next few hours blur together. Ambulance rides, doctor's questions, police statements. They separate us for individual interviews, and I tell them everything. The hidden journal, the photos, the basement medical facility, the hair samples. When I mention Marcus's phone with the text messages to Dr. Whitman, a detective's eyes widen, and he immediately bags it as evidence. We've been investigating missing persons cases that match this pattern for years, he tells me, his voice grim, but we never had enough to connect them. By morning, forensic teams are excavating the partially collapsed basement of the colonial house. Marcus sits beside me in the hospital waiting room, staring at nothing, a man hollowed out by horror. They found remains, a detective says softly when she returns. 3 sets, preliminary identification matching women reported missing over the past 5 years. Marcus makes a sound like something breaking inside him. I wrap my arm around his shoulders as he doubles over. I lived there, he whispers. I lived there while they. The toxicology results come back that afternoon. Marcus's blood shows traces of sedatives that had been administered regularly for months, possibly years. The doctor explains that the particular cocktail they found would have made him suggestible, foggy, prone to memory gaps. They drugged me, Marcus says, the realization dawning in his eyes. Every time I started noticing things, questioning things. It started after your cancer treatment, I tell him gently, piecing together what we've learned. When they found out you couldn't have children naturally. The police interview Marcus's oncologist, who confirms that Marcus had undergone aggressive treatment at 17 that left him sterile. Dr. Whitman, the doctor Marcus had been texting his suspicions to, provides months of messages documenting Marcus's growing concerns about his parents' behavior. I should have seen it, Marcus says during a therapy session I attend with him. All those renovations to the nursery. Women who would visit and then never come back. Mom's obsession with family bloodlines. They made sure you wouldn't see it, the therapist reminds him. The drugs in your system were specifically designed to create memory gaps and reduce suspicion. The trial begins 6 months later. I hold Marcus's hand as the prosecutor lays out the evidence. Detailed medical records of 6 women who were artificially inseminated using Marcus's stored sperm samples from before his cancer treatment. Journals documenting their progress as vessels. Financial records showing purchases of medical equipment and pharmaceuticals. Rachel refuses to testify against Paul. She sits in the courtroom, back straight, eyes forward, as if this were merely an inconvenient business meeting. When Marcus takes the stand, she finally shows emotion, a single tear tracking down her face as he describes discovering the truth about his family. The Blackwood line has continued unbroken for 11 generations. Paul says when he takes the stand in his own defense. What I did to preserve something precious, something worth preserving at any cost. The jury deliberates for less than 3 hours before returning with guilty verdicts on all counts. Paul receives multiple life sentences. Rachel, who pleaded guilty to lesser charges, gets 25 years. After the sentencing, Marcus sells the property. He donates the money to the families of the victims and to organizations supporting survivors of trafficking and abuse. The 2-story colonial house outside the city is demolished. The land turned into a memorial garden. I keep thinking about what they said, Marcus tells me one night, a year after we escaped, about legacy and continuation, as if bloodlines matter more than being decent human beings. We've connected with a network of survivors and advocates, people who understand trauma and healing. Through them, we meet another family's victims, 2 women who escaped a similar situation in another state. Their testimonies help convict another couple obsessed with genetic continuation. My parents thought legacy was about DNA. Marcus says as we plant flowers at the memorial garden on the 1-year anniversary. But real legacy is what you choose to build or destroy with your own hands. I watch him carefully place a stone marker with the names of the women who didn't survive his parents' obsession. In this moment, he's creating his true legacy, one of healing, of facing horror, and choosing to build something better from its ashes. Do you ever think about having a family someday? I ask him later, as we walk back to the car. It's the first time I've broached the subject since everything happened. Marcus is quiet for a long moment. Sometimes. Not because of bloodlines or family names. Just because. He takes my hand, squeezing gently. Just because love is the only legacy that actually matters. The sun sets behind us as we drive away from the memorial garden, casting long shadows across the road ahead. There are still nightmares, still therapy sessions, still moments when the weight of what happened threatens to pull us under. But there's also this: 2 people who survived the unimaginable, moving forward together, one day at a time. I think that's the kind of legacy worth building, I tell him, and for the first time in a year, his smile reaches his eyes.